Dear friends, I'm glad to welcome everyone to the Feygin live channel. Today is Tuesday, February 25th. The time is 9 p.m. in Kyiv, 10 p.m. in Moscow. We are conducting another stream on our channel. Well, we named it ambiguously a psychotype. So we have invited today to talk with you a well-known psychoanalyst from St. Petersburg, but currently residing in Argentina, Dmitry Olshansky. Dmitry, we are glad to see you.
Buenas tardes.
I see. So what I want to say, we generally, of course, hear different assessments, but not from professionals, rather from, let's say, people who study Trump and his policies. We had a sportsman, he made a diagnosis. Well, it's clear that this is a popular environment more for memes. But here, we really decided to talk about how one can diagnose more professionally. Although it's understandable that this might be a thankless task and people who do this professionally are cautious about giving precise assessments, but still, we need to understand what exactly the eccentricity in Trump's politics represents and what its origins are. Are we really dealing with a narcissistic personality type, an unpredictable person? You know, for example, given all the recent political events, Dmitry, many people are asking, can Trump change? And many ask me this question, can he just change? Say one thing today and start saying something else tomorrow. Well, like calling Zelensky a comedian and dictator, and then tomorrow start saying, no, the dictator is Putin and Zelensky is a wonderful politician and actor and so on. So how consistent can such people be in their political stance, in their statements, in their public behavior? Can it be constant or on the contrary, variable? That is, it's clear that people are interested in this for political reasons. And we are trying, to also gain something from it. On one hand, to determine what kind of psychological profile Trump has, and whether it is common among politicians at such levels, and whether we have seen examples of this, but at the same time, for it to perhaps become a guide to action for those involved in the political process. I mean, we have viewers from different places, and maybe they will take into account our assessments, our discussions directly in some matters. Conducting negotiations or even attempts to predict Trump's behavior at some distance, whether short or long. So tell me, Dmitry, would you dare to diagnose or, I don't know, determine, let's say from a psychoanalytical point of view, Trump's personality type, and tell us quite accurately what characteristics correspond to this type?
Well, since we've taken on this topic, as the saying goes, if you call yourself a Gruzdi, get into the basket. Since I agreed, I will certainly name it. Then, you see, people like Alla Borisovna, Pella, are inclined to want to know what will happen. And it's clear that, thank you, what surprises me here is something else. In my opinion, for any professional, Trump is very understandable and very predictable. That's it. And I am more... Moreover, this is his second appearance. Have we forgotten that he already had a first appearance? And everything that could be danced, he has already danced. Now he is just repeating, and surprisingly almost like a copy, meaning he does nothing out of the ordinary. Not only is it expected, but with a high degree of probability, everything is also predictable. So all this panic and concern about what he is doing, if you go back in time to 8 years back, it's still the same about his actions. Therefore, he is an amazingly predictable and understandable comrade. Regarding the psychotype, I will now try to maintain a balance between the fact that we still have a popular show without delving into those questions. If someone is suddenly interested in an academic lecture about psychopaths, you can find it on YouTube. I had a lecture about maniacs and psychopaths if you're interested. And today it is more popular this way. And preliminarily, what needs to be said is that we are now analyzing not Trump's personality, but a certain character that is shown to us in the media. And this is a certain image that is directed, constructed, scripted. And my inner paranoia at such moments tells me that maybe they want you to feel what you are feeling right now. You thought about him, what you think about him, Because any politics has an explicit side and an implicit one. Everything that happens in front of the camera is a certain message, a certain performance. And if they are showing us this performance, they want some kind of reaction from the audience. And the fact that a certain part of the population panicked, maybe that was directed too. That's exactly what they were aiming for, says my inner paranoia. So as a preface, this needs to be said. When I say that the analysis of Trump is not about his personality, he has not been examined. Just like all the other participants in this act. And by the way, I'm building bridges. Incidentally, I'll tell you, with Dutch psychiatrists, I really want to get an examination in The Hague. This is one of my dreams, like those of Martin Luther King. I have a dream. I want one patient in The Hague.
My doctor, which one? Yes.
Yes, I really want to be present there. This is one of my dreams. So, both Putin and Trump and all other participants, we see avatars and images, and we will analyze them, what they show us, and what we can understand from it, what conclusions we can draw. And I wrote to you about what they broadcast to us and show us a picture of obvious psychopathy. And this is surprising. For what purpose? We do not know yet. But here are a number of traits that are observed. In perverse psychopaths and narcissistic psychopaths, we see on the screen when they are shown, I would say, one of the leading characteristics. Yes, in all psychopaths, we can observe such an attitude that the law, in my personal view, I personally ascertain and determine what is considered good and what is considered bad, and that no universal concepts of good and evil exist. As I say, so it will be, I am the law, and Sigmund Freud describes psychopaths exactly like this. Now, tell me perhaps, why are such characters so charming? Why do people exactly fall in love with them?
I have to answer.
And it's odd, since you're not a professional psychiatrist like you.
No, well, a little bit. I did study forensic psychology and forensic psychiatry. There are two different fields, general psychology and forensic psychiatry at the law faculty. So, of course, I read books. Well, let's put it this way. Why are they charming? Well, firstly, if we talk about politics, it's a kind of novelty. It is very different from the traditional series of similar politicians who previously demonstrated a certain particular model. It strictly follows the order too, as avatars are also shown. You need to be like this. So he stands out from this general line, and that's firstly. And secondly, in this standing out, so to speak, there is probably some association with oneself because we are surrounded. Why not? And this makes him more understandable. For people who live ordinary lives, I teach in America, I am here, I meet such psychopaths on the street, which is not the case. The reactions are exactly the same. That's all. And thirdly, it's most likely, well, there is an appeal in this eccentricity. Indeed, it's called charisma or something else. Perhaps there is an emphasis on a certain unusualness that attracts, that evokes emotions. Let's put it that way.
Yes. The majority of the Earth's population are still neurotics, right? Neurotics, shaped by a system of prohibitions and taboos. Since childhood, we are told not to wear certain things or to smell spoons, and that you can't pull girls' braids. And then a character comes along who kicks the door open and says, I've been grabbing women by the butt my whole life, and that's how it should be done, and I'll teach you too. This causes a mixed reaction. On one hand, it's shocking because I was taught that this is not allowed. And at the same time, he embodies my shadow side. While I would also like to do that, but I can't allow myself to. And he can. And that's the secret of infatuation. He shows me what I have repressed, I don't allow myself, but he does. And that's why I want to be like him. And it's amazing. If we look at the voting statistics, there's no correlation at all. Both very rich and very poor people support him. Both Native Americans and Europeans. And so there is no specific Trump audience as such. Why? Because he appeals precisely to these repressed desires. I will teach you to do what you've been forbidden your whole life. And so he comes, breaking moral values, the right of the powerful and dominant. If you want to rape someone, you just do it without any hesitation. By the way, when the topic of Trump comes up with my students, I say, if you want to understand Trump, read Marquis de Sade. And not in a metaphorical sense, but literally just open the book and read what his characters are doing.
Well, you see, and Justine, that's his book.
And it's not just about physical violence, but about breaking the moral principles of the counterpart. You lived in your own rigid morality, which constrained, limited, and suppressed your desires. And then I, the hero, the victor, came and canceled all that. And now I'll teach you how to be free, such a libertine. It's not surprising, by the way, that the Marquis de Sade, one of the figures of the French Revolution, proposed to destroy bourgeois morality. And all that, one of the authors of the Constitution, by the way. It's wonderful to live in a country where the Constitution was written by the Marquis de Sade. Oh, wow. And Trump does the same thing. To visit someone in such a way that you insult the host to the point of bringing them to tears in the most literal sense. So, Europe starts whining, wiping their noses, and he finds great enjoyment in it at that particular moment. Because I truly and completely broke your moral values, everyone said it couldn't be done, but I will. And that's his form of enjoyment, a psychopath. The same with Ukraine. He plays it out. Putin is indeed assaulting Ukraine, and we will truly assist the Messiah. In all your ethics books, it says to identify with the victim and help the weak, but we will help the strong. And this causes a mixed reaction among neurotics. On one hand, it's a shock because we're not used to it. It's not allowed. And at the same time, there's a charm in it. And I want that too. I want to be strong. I want to identify with someone strong. And I want the strong to defeat the weak. Oh dear. And so one of your former counterparts develops this theme that Trump restored the right of the strong. The right of the strong. And there's the charm. I also want to be strong. I also want to be an oppressor. All my life it was forbidden, and now I'm old. And that's the secret of his charm. Secondly, what I want to say, pay attention to how psychopaths establish relationships with partners. They are built very materially, very mechanistically. When he talks about his partner, there is no human dimension. No feelings, emotions, thoughts. And if you even somewhere on the internet open interviews with real psychopaths, how they talk about their victims, they usually say, well, I actually loved her. I bought her a dress. That's a sign of love. I took her on vacation. I spent a certain amount of money on her.
So I emphasize materially, the components of these relationships are not emotional, but rather very literal. It's important to understand correctly. We gave 500 billion, well, 350 to 100, giving 500. That's what it is.
You immediately feel it. Yes. As soon as I give the introduction, you recognize Trump in this. Yes, indeed. What is love? It's about money. It's about who bought what, who gave what. the material, tangible dimension. And there's no existential, moral, or spiritual component at all. Justice, I don't even know such words. What is that? And look at Trump's rhetoric. That's all he talks about. Who gave whom how much? Then it becomes clear who loves more over time. Just like one of my real psychopathic patients said, if you love, you take off the Russian, such an absolutely material measurement. And Trump addresses Ukraine in exactly the same way. Like, I love you for 500 billion, take off. No appeals, again, appeals to universal human values, conscience, law, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand these words. And third, a very important characteristic of psychopaths that I would also like to draw our attention to is the lack of critical attitude towards their own actions. We neurotics sometimes do things right, sometimes wrong, and then we analyze, and it's more like, I behaved badly, didn't I? And please forgive me, I won't do it again. And we try to somehow correct our behavior. Now look at Trump's rhetoric. No matter what nonsense he does, he always says that he is a winner. And no matter how much he messes up, he always says that he is right. And I have this feeling, well, I don't know whether it's nonsense or not, whether he believes it himself, but when he gives a speech, it's like he's hyping himself up. He's chanting to himself. He's convincing himself of it. I am a winner. I am a winner. And here in parentheses, we have our Argentine Trump, little Javier, who says it directly, like, I'm a hero, I'm a lion.
Well, yes, Milei. Oh, President Milei, who is the leader in Argentina.
Yes, yes. He has this even more explicitly. He says directly, I'm a hero. I came to break all your previous principles, to establish all new ones. I'm a hero like Christ. And Trump does the same thing. There is an uncritical attitude towards their own behavior. Therefore, there can be no appeals to conscience. And the idea that a person will repent, like I did something wrong, forgive me, I won't do it again. That definitely won't happen.
And thus there is no reflection at all. He doesn't reflect on his actions, doesn't analyze, essentially does nothing to draw conclusions whether in his favor or not. It turns out that it doesn't matter to him.
Yes, since there is no human relationship between interpersonal contact, he doesn't analyze himself either. His conscience is simply turned off, and therefore appealing to it is absolutely pointless. Moreover, the more Europe whines, undoubtedly and persistently, the more pleasure he gets in his mind, without hesitation. And this is the rhetoric of a thug to nonsense. If you got really scared and ran, that's indeed exactly what I need. He will throw dirt after you. He derives pleasure from this. And therefore, in my opinion, Europe is certainly acting absolutely incorrectly. I watched all the reports at this Munich conference. They come out and start making excuses.
Yes, they make excuses.
What are you doing? You're giving him exactly what he wants. You're feeding the troll. You must not do this under any circumstances. You're feeding the troll. And regarding Ukraine, I also have the feeling that he doesn't reveal it all at once. He throws dirt in portions. First, it means a 4% rating. Then Zelensky is a dictator. In a couple of days, it means Zelensky is a dictator. Then a few days later, and you can negotiate without Ukraine. And all of this, yes, this feeling of trolling, he provokes emotions, he destabilizes, he shakes things up. How to interact with this in the most environmentally friendly way?
Yes, how?
Well, what do you think?
Well, in general, to trolls, you should not give in. Under no circumstances should you follow their script. You understand well, either avoid it or demonstrate a similar response. Well, I think that's logical.
No, that's right, yes. You need to demonstrate a response. Then we boys who grew up in Russia, after all, yes, I on the floor, right? How is he? When thugs approach, what should you do? You need to be clear and straightforward. Respond as rudely as possible once, and don't react anymore. And don't react anymore, because then it starts with, I'll find you from some district. So you absolutely need to rudely send them off once and for all. And it seems like to me that the same logic applies here. Engaging in conversation with him, or maybe not or maybe not justifying yourself, proving anything is absolutely not allowed. Because that's exactly what the troll wants. At the same time, it should be noted, in parentheses, that psychopaths are somewhat different from maniacs, particularly in this aspect. Maniacs with schizophrenia, for example, may experience a split consciousness. And if you listen to interviews with Chikatilo, for instance, given back then, they have a concept of conscience, and they say, I couldn't have done that. What I did is absolutely disgusting, repulsive, it's insane, and it's some other part of me. And sometimes they even say, I need to be punished for this. That is, if all this is really true, if I did it, just kill me. And this is at least some conscience, at least some reflection. But psychopaths don't have this reflection. No matter what cringeworthy thing you do, you're always a hero, a winner, a lion prince, and the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's what I think about all this.
So, over 13,000 are watching us right now, and more than 3,200 have liked this broadcast. A big request to our viewers, please share links to this on your social media accounts and groups. Be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and I think you too. We included the channel last time in the description of this video, a chance to your channel. We will put a link to Dmitry's channel under the name Dmitry Shans, and you can go watch the broadcast there, subscribe to me, and so on. We've been on air for 23 minutes. We still have enough time for questions. After all, it's one thing to deal with thugs answering questions about seeds or smoking, but it's another thing on such a scale. Yes, of world politics, not to mention the major decisions about war and peace. What kind of algorithm is possible here, let's say, in terms of psychological confrontation? Answering once and ignoring is one thing, but the circumstances require a different, more involved and prolonged reaction, because today the fate of Ukraine depends on Trump, not to mention military supplies. These are negotiations with Moscow and so on. So are there any other ways to make it so that his perception of the world changes? Many people ask if it's possible to react to Putin in such a way, you see, and direct all their anger there. From Europe, from Zelensky, from Ukraine, because they are seen as the weaker side, while Putin is perceived as the stronger side. Is there some kind of correlation here that he will, out of the blue or for some other reasons, or is there a trigger that will make him switch and say, yes, you know, if Putin doesn't make any concessions in negotiations with him that are politically comfortable for Trump to fulfill his promises about peace in Ukraine, ending the war, the ignition of fire and so on? What needs to happen for this switch to occur on Putin? All of his negativity.
Where is his button?
Where is his button? Yes. In electronics, where is the button? Yes.
Now, I will say something discouraging. No way. No way. No way. No way. You cannot directly influence a psychopath, but you can influence the environment. And from rap Since he is also a businessman, yes, he is used to personal responsibility. Here we sit face to face, shake hands like men, agree on how this works. For him, that's how the consciousness is arranged, face to face, decided before accounting, rubbed it in, agreed. Yes, honestly, an epic word like that, and if a citizen is indeed stubborn, it's hard to move the ramp, like a new gate, but you can influence the environment. And so, as it seems to me, he doesn't understand one simple thing, that the system is like water, it blocks any sudden movement. And from what he has been doing over the last month, well, you are in the USA now, you can...
I hear, of course, yes.
How people react, and I also see it from my patients in North America, it's shocking, and the system will continue to stagnate. No sudden inadequate actions of this citizen. It will not allow, and the more he struggles, the more jelly will form, and he will only get more stuck. I hope this is the first process that can start. The second process is open protest. After all, the USA is a free country, and people can protest. If more than half get annoyed, then they will simply announce impeachment. And maybe, yes, these processes can, in various ways, have an influence on the situation, but directly grabbing him by the legs and dragging him away in a direct manner won't work. Thirdly, there is still a system of checks and balances. Nothing depends solely on Trump. There is a wife who can make any decisions and does not consult with him. And in general, the wife can allocate donations to Ukraine at her own discretion. I am counting on these three processes within America. And then you see, you mentioned a narcissistic pervert, right? Of course, he needs to be flattered, and he loves his own grandeur, his own importance. But the task is complicated by the fact that Putin is already flattering him well.
Oh, yes, yes. And for quite a long time, since 1918, the well-known meetings in Helsinki, as stated by Alona Hill, who described in her book how this went on for 2 hours. He was flattering him from all sides. Even then, it stuck.
So Ukraine doesn't need to try to flatter more than Putin does. And unfortunately, Putin has good psychologists working there, a good team. I was acquainted with some presidential advisors in my past life. Unfortunately, they are high-level professionals.
So these are from St. Petersburg, some specialists that Putin took with him, and they are working somewhere in his staff, or they're, I don't know, as consultants. So am I understanding correctly?
Yes, yes, yes. High-class professionals, and they flatter him correctly. And he is very manipulative. I'll say it again, an extremely predictable fellow.
Look, what do Putin and Putin and Trump have in common in their psychological type? Is Putin neurotic? Is he, after all, the antithesis of Trump? Or are there some personality elements that coincide in this sense, something in common?
What did we want? We would certainly like to think that he is a neurotic, of course. Psychological type, and there is nothing in common in their psychological types. Nothing. No, they are completely opposite people. As I mentioned earlier, one is about personal responsibility, and the other is about spreading responsibility. And I suspect that when he is tried in The Hague, he will say, well, I didn't sign a single document. How can you prove that I ordered the attack on Ukraine? Show me some kind of decree. It was some Security Council, Federation Council, something with Narishkin, something with Shoigu. How am I involved in this? I did nothing, just stood aside. There are no four sides to you in Odessa, Mom. And Putin about spreading responsibility. Well, Trump is about some quick, clear, understandable decisions. He's like a bull in a china shop. He kicks the door open. He's rude. Well, Putin is the complete opposite. He makes decisions slowly. He always has several options, and it's unclear which one will play out, whether this one or that one. So he keeps things in suspense until the last moment. And I'm always as if I'm not involved. It just happened by itself. The latest well-known famous quote, "Why did you attack Ukraine?"
Because, well, it was God's will. Yes, this is literally from yesterday, already 3 years ago.
That says everything about him. So why did you beat up the neighbor's boy? It's all God's will. Yes, it's all God's will, indeed. So he doesn't take responsibility, which is very interesting. If Trump will deny it to the end, saying, I did it, but hey, I'm great, he would say, yes, he beat up the boy. Grabs women by the behind, but I'm great, right? But this one just denies it. Therefore, it's hard to even imagine what they have in common. Completely different people. Then Trump is about boldness. He's brazen. He's rude. And Putin is a coward, a little gray bunny. And of course, we would like to think that he's a neurotic. And now imagine the horror he's in. And on the topic, by the way, of how to punish Putin, he doesn't need to be punished. He's already living in hell. Every morning, he wakes up with the thought that today he might be killed. And he's already in solitary confinement. Around him are 200 guards. He can't even go to the bathroom alone. It's all under surveillance. All this is being investigated immediately.
If Putin is internally destroying himself, yes, certainly further deteriorating considering his age and his position, complete isolation, so to speak. Is this destroying Putin? Will we see the result of this destruction, self-destruction, or what?
Again, this is our imagination, projections, and speculative. Of course, we would like to think that he is suffering, and this is my fantasy, that every morning he wakes up with the thought that maybe today I will be killed. And for the last many years, that's how it happens. And what punishment could be worse? He's already in a solitary death row cell.
Well, yes, a death row inmate awaits death. So we already have almost 16,000 watching. Some more have joined. Those who are joining us, please don't forget to immediately like and share the links to this broadcast on your accounts, social networks, and groups. Those who are watching us in the live broadcast, especially from Russia, where YouTube is blocked, in the Telegram channel and in the Feygin live account, also find a way to spread the links from there so that people subscribe there. Because if there is no way to watch YouTube from Russia with or without a VPN or in any other way, then this is a good alternative to the Telegram channel where we conduct the live broadcast. And just in case, on the X network, in the Fading live account, you can also watch the live broadcast ahead of this show. So help other viewers see this broadcast. It's within your power. And subscribe to the Fading live channel itself. Now, the next question. Politically, we understand that he will not come to an agreement with Putin because at some point they will reach a deadlock as their desires will not align. There will be insurmountable contradictions because, yes, he might be ready. Trump might be willing to give up Ukraine, perhaps, but he is weighed down by the obligations he has as the president of the United States. Still, he is not like Putin because he was elected, after all. Nevertheless, so to speak, there are institutions, as you mentioned, from the Senate and Congress as such to the courts, individual states, and so on. So he is not entirely free. Unlike Putin, Putin can do anything at all. He can either return territory or continue the war. And this contradiction is irresolvable because Putin maximizes his demands. He does not back down from them. But as for Trump, if they suddenly clash, not over the personalities of one another, but over the impossibility of reaching an agreement, what reaction from Trump can be predicted in this case? How might he react to the impossibility of overcoming this obstacle? They demand that he give up all of Ukraine for aluminum in Russia, for the trade of rare earth metals, and God knows what else. And he cannot do that. And does he understand that he cannot do this? And can he understand that he cannot do this because there is a certain burden under which he promised voters to solve this problem, not by surrendering Ukraine. That's what it's about. And it seems to me that he is deluding himself that he can convince Putin, because I hear from certain phrases when he met with Macron, he came out to the briefing, and Putin, in a phone call promised that he would agree to European contingents within the demilitarized zone. Well, it's pure logic. Again, Putin promised, agreed in a private phone conversation, even if it was between two leaders. So he wants to believe that Putin is ready to meet him halfway, but we understand that he cannot do that. How will he survive this crisis of his desire not matching reality? To hang this medal on himself? I stopped the conflict in Ukraine after 3 years, and the impossibility of overcoming this obstacle. That's the question.
The difference, Marky, Zakharik, is that we are neurotic, and we are more likely to experience this as a crisis. Yes. And he won't agree. He won't agree with Putin. He will conquer Ukraine. With Putin, he will be a hero in any case. He will say that I am the winner in his worldview. He is always the winner.
So if he doesn't deliver this result, will he still say, I still won?
Yes, yes, yes. So pay attention. He never, again, we have been closely observing him for the last years. Yeah. He has never said anywhere that it should have been played differently, that it should be replayed. Not E2, but E4 should have been played. That has never happened. Everything he does, in fact, is exactly what we wanted. I have a director friend who says that all films are divided into two types. What they wanted, they filmed, and what they filmed, they wanted. That's it. With Trump, what they filmed, they wanted. In any case, I'm a hero. Even if Ukraine is conquered, he will say that I'm a hero. That's exactly what I wanted. Or on the contrary, if Crimea is returned to Ukraine and the Luhansk Donbass, he is also, by the way, a hero. In any case, he will be a hero. That's why I say it's hard to play here. He will be the winner in any case.
Interesting. All right. Then let's return to those around, so to speak, those who are involuntarily involved in all this. So, well, I don't know. There should be some set of more specific advice here. You mentioned not reacting. Say it once, like to a thug, and step back. Well, in international politics, in all these issues, it's impossible to do that because something needs to be continued. As the stakes are high, and for instance, Europe, Ukraine, those who support a certain line of behavior doctrinally, what should they do? After all, we are now directly giving them advice. How should they specifically behave? Because he invited Zelensky, they are meeting with him, I think next week, I'm afraid to be wrong, or the week after. He said that first I'll meet with Zelensky, then with Putin, and so on. So he is going to meet him as well. What should Zelensky do to behave in a way that firstly avoids his anger, and on the other hand, somehow tries to convince him that he will be the best winner if he continues to support Ukraine? What should he specifically say?
I think it's difficult to take down a boar head on. Significantly influence the environment.
The environment is his circle, Trump's circle, those he listens to. In a broader sense, the voters, you can't influence them at the moment. The American ones, right now, some are euphoric, some are observing from a distance, some may be dissatisfied, but there is no time, strength, or resources for that. That's how I would put it.
I think that Trump played it interestingly in the sense that he bought time. So all of this means the idea, they are arguing and dividing. Yes, it's like someone came into the room and made a mess. And everyone is in shock, wondering what just happened. And for the next 15 minutes, he has your attention. And so Trump undoubtedly bought time. The longer time goes on, it works against him. Yes. Yes. That's one thing. And maybe, perhaps the American society, Richard, when he loses,
It's about keeping the shelf of attention. Am I right when I say yes, 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 yes?
He loses the focus of attention, then he'll need to create another mess, which is not so easy.
Well, yes, you can eat.
You need to come up with something even more cringeworthy than what he's already done. It's like you constantly need to raise the stakes, which is difficult. You need imagination, this arc order. It's hard to be a game changer. You need a lot of imagination. I'm not a Marquise.
Yes, well, let's just clarify. Not all viewers here, indeed. Otherwise, they'll say you're talking nonsense, some kind of reverse situation. Yes, so
influence the environment, then my inner paranoid wants to say hello to you. And who can actually be the beneficiary of everything that's happening? Who benefits from all this happening? Profitable? That the number one state is led by a strange character who breaks everything he touches. Or that America and Europe have quarreled. Who benefits from this?
well, for Moscow, it's obvious.
Moscow is not a subject. Think globally.
China, perhaps China.
Yes, yes. A wise military leader destroys the alliances of his opponent.
Yes.
As stated in the treatise, The Art of War from the 6th century BC, you see, before this era. So the fact that these two have quarreled, and I advise everyone to read the Chinese press. There, if Xi Jinping says something about it, he says nothing. Mouth zipped. That's what's surprising. That's what's surprising. Now imagine, let's say you want to do business somewhere. Would you do it with people whose rules of the game are constantly changing? One moment it's black, then white, then white, then black. When the war started, to be continued, the same people said that Putin is a war criminal and a murderer. So after 3 years pass, they say he's a good negotiator. It's okay with him, right? You have constantly changing rules of the game. So would you do business with those whose black and white changes or with those who are stable, red? That's why my inner paranoia says that China benefits from all this. And the more cringe they have happening here, the more points China gets.
Well, okay. And if we consider the closed circle, how much, for example, can Elon Musk influence? Well, a personality type like that on Trump with his psychotype and so on. Does he have some kind of key that he picks? Well, obviously money, yes. So we talked about money, that it's a materially centered consciousness, meaning he financed the company. He's always around. He's involved in projects that also have material content. But is there some way here of psychological influence from Elon Musk? And specifically there are probably others as well. His wife, for example, Melanie, does she influence or not? His son, one or the other, Kushner. So we want to figure out specifically who can influence or inspire such a unique and complex personality type, a psychopath in particular. Who could it be?
No one, and we wait for him. The wife is also present like a log, you see. During the first term, she didn't express herself subjectively in any way, didn't show herself looking for who the family is, children, porridge diapers, as if everything, this is very important. This is not Elena Zelensky. And the personality type in general, Bureau, yes. If you give advice of cosmic scale and cosmic stupidity, there, not to go to Washington, but to Beijing, and this is what can change the balance of power. This is what can change the environment, because the only counterparty is ready to deal with is China. And here he wants to win the economic war with China and make America great again.
Got it. That's clear too. The last question of this broadcast might be almost 45 on the tooth. And we will sort of give the viewers all this peri-peri to reflect on age. He is turning 79. Now, meaning over the next 4 years, he will reach 83 years old. How does age affect a psychopath's noise? Does it exacerbate reactions? On the contrary, how does it settle? How does it calm down or trigger some parallel processes? Here, many people commonly dress up, write about dementia or something else. But we would like to understand specifically about the psychological changing portrait under the influence of age. How will it manifest in him? This Annually now, age-related changes will accelerate because, after all, from 1890, it becomes more significant. Meanwhile, 1890 is so-so. How can this manifest here?
Well, in old age, people generally become more set in their ways and rarely adopt new behavior patterns. And his psychological type is such, he is very limited, straightforward. I say predictable. It will worsen further. I don't know about the state of his brain. Maybe there will be dementia, maybe not. God knows. Give. That's what I often tell patients. People do not change. Remember, people do not change in 4 years, in 5 years. And it's clearly visible with Trump. Rewind 8 years back. Exactly the same. Everything the same. No surprises.
Well, yes, that's also an important conclusion. If people do not change, then age can exacerbate. But adding amplitude to this pendulum cannot be stopped. Like, he's old, doesn't want anything insolvent. And he stopped reacting to all this with enthusiasm, like a psychopath. It turns out, no. In any case, everything is doomed to develop exactly this way in the next 4 years. Well, we've been on air for almost 7 minutes, and we have just over 1,000 viewers watching us. About 1,000 have liked this broadcast. We thank all the viewers for taking the time today to discuss the pressing topic of Trump's psychotype with us. We will surely return and discuss all this again. This holds a completely utilitarian interest for us. We thank Dmitry Olshansky. Thank you for giving us your time. And we look forward to you subscribing to our channel, mine and Dmitry's, and accordingly sharing links to this broadcast in your accounts, networks, and groups. Thank you all very much, and goodbye. Ciao, see you later.